Hello and welcome to this video on Windows Server 2012 ESU with Azure Arc. I am Anthony Arrand. I'm one of the hybrid infrastructure technical pre-sales team here at Bytes. So I'm here and part of my role is to help customers look at their hybrid infrastructure needs and make some better decisions around kind of how we look to either migrate to Azure or AWS, or if we want to create things and keep things on site, we can look at those kind of technologies. And I'm here today to discuss kind of how we extend those support updates with the use of Azure Arc and how that's going to look for your admins to deploy and kind of the ease of the technology that we have in place with Azure. And we'll touch on some of the extensions that Azure Arc will give you for management and control of your devices. But the idea and the outcome of this is to look at how we enable extended support for those devices. So I guess the first place to start is, what is Azure Arc? So Azure Arc is a technology that's there to bridge and extend your Azure platform to help manage on-premise devices. So this could be Kubernetes, this could be Windows, and the idea behind it is that we can then look at extending and building your application services with the flexibility to run those across your data center as well as Azure. And then just having that kind of multi-cloud platform as well to be able to manage them. So with the use of things like CSPM Foundation with Defender for Cloud, we can look at ingesting those EC2 instances from AWS and other instances from GCP and actually have those pulled into Arc so we can manage those as items, and we can give you a clear view of what your estate actually looks like. So I guess the key bullet points here for this is kind of Arc is there to allow you to develop cloud native applications with a consistent development, operation, and security model. By that, we mean we can apply policies and controls that we'd normally have in Azure all the way down to your data center. We can then harness that data insight from the cloud to the edge. So what we can actually do is we can take a look at things like application insights, API gateways, everything else using Arc, and we can actually control that and actually give you some useful information from those devices. So we can have a single pane of glass to manage these. And then sitting across that again, that security model, we've got secure and govern these applications and these servers so that we can ensure that your policies, your hardening controls, everything that you have set in Azure for your virtual machines and for your Kubernetes clusters is being deployed on premise. And I think the biggest point here is the visibility. So as long as we're onboarding with things like group policy, Ansible, using CSPM Foundation to be able to pull in your EC2 instances, as well as looking at the wider scope of what Microsoft have in preview, like using Virtual Machine Manager and VMware's vCenters to be able to pull in those underlying managed VMs into Arc, we can make sure that dev devices or workgroup devices that would normally have just got deployed and forgotten about are pulled into Arc so you have that visibility and control. And then leveraging things like tags and everything else, we can then use that in billing items or control items so we can see what we have where, who owns what, and what technologies are installed onto those devices. So one of the other things we can do, which I will touch on during this video, is the ability to manage SQL Server 2012 resources alongside Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2 resources, and being able to subscribe to those extended support updates. Without further ado, we're going to jump into some demonstrations. I'm going to quickly show you how easy it is to set up Azure Arc in a POC environment and start onboarding devices that we can then control and apply extended support updates to, and show you the subscription models that we have a choice with. Okay, now we've jumped across to the Microsoft Azure portal. We can see that we're already here in the Arc Blade. In the Arc Blade, we have a couple of options. I think the first one that we're going to look at now is going to be service principals. So the purpose of the service principal, this is just a Enter ID application registration. All it will do is create an app registration and provide us with a client secret and a client ID. And this will give us a limited secret time that we can then use to join our devices to Azure Arc. And we can set these to be as long as we want. My recommendation is to probably keep them alive as long as you're doing your enrollment into Azure. So when we're bringing the devices into Azure Arc, I believe that we should definitely have that available to us because we're going to be running via GPO. Not all devices are going to pick up that GPO straight away. So maybe giving it a week or so we can do that onboarding process. And then we stop the GPO. So we need to halt that on premise, or we need to stop the deployment from Ansible. But we'll then also need to remember that when we come to that point, we will need to update the service principal with a new client secret so that we can then copy that into the script again. There's no way of extending it because once it's set in stone, but it's easy enough to update and move on with. So without further ado, we'll jump into service principles. You can see here we have a couple of service principles already. We're just going to, for the purpose of this demo, we're going to create a whole new one. So in here, we're going to create a name. So we follow our naming convention with an abbreviation of our company name, the environment it's going into, the location it's going to serve. So in this case, it's going to be UK South, and the purpose of it. So this is the Azure Arc, and I'm going to call this O2. And then on the end, we'll give it an SP, so we know it's a service principal. So what we can do is there's two options. So we can do this at the subscription layer. At the subscription layer, this will have the ability to add into multiple resource groups underneath. So this will be able to apply your Arc machines into any resource group. Or we can do this at a resource group layer. So what we can then do is drill into our corporate one. And for the purpose of this, I have an Arc demo environment already. With this, if you did want multiple subscriptions, we'd need to either grant the multiple resource groups. We would need to grant this service principal the correct permissions at each of those resource group layers. I'll show you that in a moment. Or we just deploy to one and then we're good to go. So when it comes to client secrets, so we can define how long these are going to last. So if we look at 1 month, when it comes to descriptions, I like to put a review date in here so that when we start looking at what needs to be renewed or the last time it was created, we can easily identify them. So review from 1 month today. So I will set this to the 5th of the 11th, 2023. And the roles we're going to give this is the connected machine onboarding. And then we just click create. So this will take a couple of seconds to create that account. And what it will do is it will throw out a text file that we can download. So we can see here we can download and close. As you can see, I've done this a couple of times. So here we will have that principal ID and we will have the client secret. This is only available one time. We will not be able to go back into the resource to find this client secret. If we do lose it and we need to regenerate one, we'll have to go and generate one. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But one thing I will suggest is make sure you put quotation marks around these, because when it comes to copying and pasting them later on, we'll need them. So what we can do is if we jump into Enter ID, and then we take a look at application registrations, all applications. If I type in CM demo, we'll see that we have this service principal right here. And if I need to change the certificate secrets, I can drill into this and we can see here that I can no longer gain that value back. So all I'll need to do is actually create a new client secret, give it another description, 01 10 2024. So we're going to create this one for a year. I will be deleting this one straight after this. So we can see here again, we can now see that value once more. But as this is not needed, I'm just going to clear it up and clean it. What we're going to do now is we're going to jump back to Azure Arc. So the next thing, once we've created this service principal, we can create something called a private link scope. So private link scopes are there in order for us to be able to use private endpoints to be able to connect back to our data center. So when it comes to joining Arc devices, we have 3 options. We can connect via public internet. So this will be an agent deployed on the local machines. Well, in all cases, it's an agent deployed on the local machines. But that agent will create a connection back to the Azure portal. So it will have your tenancy details in there, that client ID, client secrets, and it will then create that connection for you. So it'll all be an outbound connection from your data center into Azure. We can do this via a proxy. So we'll get an option for creating a proxy. Or if we have a VPN in place and we want this to go over private networking, we can deploy a private link or a private endpoint. So we can come in here, go create private endpoint scope, wait for this to load. We can give this a name. So again, we'll put this into our demo resource. And then endpoint. Then we can go to the private endpoint and we can add this. And we will define this again. And we will point this to our platform. And we'll provide it to its own subnet. And what this will do is once we create it, we'll create that private DNS zones, and we'll go through and then create it and tag it. For anyone that needs to do this, we can go into more detail. You can feel free to speak to one of us at Bytes, but this will go through, connect, and work that way. For the sake of this demo, we're only going to go as far as this with this. We're now going to look at how to connect over the public. Reason for it is, with this being a demo environment, I haven't got VPN set up yet. So we are going to jump into adding resources. So there's two ways of doing this. We can do this either from the overview plane and just come in here and click add, or we can come down to machines and then go add create and then a virtual machine. When it comes to this, we've got two options. So we can add a single server or we can add multiple servers. In this case, we're going to add multiple servers because we know that we're probably going to batch this across a GPO, or we want to at least have a script that we can copy and reuse. So if I go to generate script, what we'll do again is we will select our Arc demo environment. This is where your Arc devices will be dumped. So once they're in this folder, we'll be able to look at those, apply tags, and take a look at what's been enrolled. Again, regions. So I have a region locked, which will specifically set me to only the UK. So UK South, the UK West. So we're going to go to UK South. And we are deploying to Windows, not Linux. And we're going to use this public endpoint. But this is where we would provide information around the proxy service. We'd put the server URL in there, or we would connect to that private link scope here. And what we can then do is come down here to service principals, and we can see that we've got this O2 service principal that we can connect to. What we're then going to go is next, and this is where we apply some tags. In this case, this is my lab. So this is going to be a lab. And the city is going to be London. And then I don't care about these two options here. But what I might want to put on here as well is an owner information. Environment as demo. And then we're also going to set this criticality. And we're going to set that to low. And then we're going to go next. Okay, so when we get to the download and run scripts, we can see we've got an option here for basic scripts, configuration manager, group policy, or Ansible. We are just going to quickly jump through configuration manager and group policy. So configuration manager is essentially exactly the same. There's a few differences in here, but it'll essentially just be a script. So we can run this just as a package from your SCCM environment and push this out to your devices. So we've got group policy where we can download the installer package, or we can do this to a local directory. And then we can just copy and paste this in. And what we should see in here is we have service principals and everything else coming through. We have the tenant details, and we also have things like the resource group. And there should also, if I can scroll down, be tagging. So there'll be information around tagging in there as well. So if we go back to the basic script, it's far easier to see. So we can see that our tags exist here. So what we're going to do in this case is we're just basically going to copy and paste this, and we're going to take a look at that text file that we created earlier, and we're going to paste this in. And what we want to do here is just take this client secret and paste it over here. And this is why I said to include the quotation marks. And we're just going to make sure that service principal client ID is matching, which it is. And now we're good to use this script. So we're going to now jump over to my virtual machine, and we're going to take a look at that and show you how we can onboard. And here we go. Here's my virtual machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this script and we're just going to copy and paste it in. And we are then going to use that to be able to trigger connectivity and download what we need to. And we can see this is running through the Azure Connected Machine agent. And what this will do is it will run through, download the latest version, connect it into Azure, and it'll also then poll to make sure that it can get communication back to Azure. Okay, now we can see that this is now communicating. We can see the provisioning going through here. And that should now be connected. See that the machine has been put into Azure Arc in that resource group. And we can see the tags that we applied a moment ago. And we can come in here and take a look at the extensions. And we'll see that there are no extensions installed at the moment. So we can come in here and we can deploy the secret extension or the log analytics extension here. Or we can even deploy the Azure Monitor agent for Windows. So we're actually going to deploy this. And that's as simple as clicking next. and then review and create. And that will just deploy that agent for us. And that means that I'll be able to use Azure Monitor in the future to be able to manage that resource. But what we really care about is what we can do with extended support. So if we come into the Azure Arc portal one more time, there's another blade here that is useful, which is extended security updates. So within here, we can actually create licenses that we're going to assign to our endpoints. So the way we do this is to go to create. Again, we select the resource where we want these to reside. And for this demo, again, we are going to use the Arc resource group. And again, we're going to call this CM-demo. And we are going to put this in UK South once more. And we're just going to call this Arc demo. And we'll call this ESU. So what we have here is we've got two options. So we can activate licenses now. So if we already have the resources in Azure and we're ready to activate, we can do activate now. If it's something that's going to be coming up and we're just provisioning these ready for that, we can activate later. There will be a requirement for another step where we have to click in, edit, and make those ready to be used. But we can do that and we can pre-provision it all. My recommendation, and it's a recommendation I've been making to a lot of our customers, is to try and make these as granular as we can. Because what it means is we can then turn them off and turn them on as we need for applications or resources. So the reason for that is that if we are then looking to migrate servers and services into Azure, we can come into here and we can actually just get rid of those ones relating to those resources rather than having to recreate and move and everything else. So again, we're going to go into UK South here. And then license details are the key one. So in here is where we're going to start paying for what we're going to be consuming. If we have a physical server on site that's running our VMware environment and we want to license 2 hosts with a 16-core processor in each, we would come in here, we would purchase that data center license with physical cores, and we would license these 2. So that would give us 32 cores in total of physical, and we can then assign those to the virtual machines that are associated to that host. If we are just looking to license our standard edition virtual machines, because that's how they've been deployed, what we can do is we come in here from the drop down, select our standard edition. We'll change this to virtual cores, set this to 0 again, and we can define this if we want 8 cores, for instance. So we'll set that to 4. And then there's this tick box here. This is you ensuring that you have software assurance for those Windows licenses that we're about to associate these to. This is down to you to confirm. Microsoft have no way of checking this. So it's just for you to confirm and ensure that we have this in place. So we can click here and go create. And what we'll see in a moment is we will see this update and it will show that we have some licenses. Okay, we can now see that that has now been successfully deployed. So we can see status active and we have no linked resources. So what we want to do is to be able to assign this, we go to eligible resources. And we can see here I've got 2 virtual machines that have ESU states and not enabled. So what we want to do is just tick here, and then we can go enable ESU. From here, we can now drop down to our virtual core license that we've created, and then select the one that I've just selected, and then go enable. So give it a couple of seconds, and then when we refresh again, this ESU status should be updated. And we can see that after a refresh, ESU status is now enabled. Now what this means is we'll now get updates on these machines. And that's as simple as it is to be able to deploy that ESU. And if we were running SQL on these boxes, we can drill into that box. And where I've already deployed this SQL extension, so we can see here I've got the SQL agent, we can actually come down into SQL Server configuration and we can see that I'm running an instance on there of standard. And I can choose the license type and extended updates if I want to. So I can go pay as you go with extended updates. And then we also have the ability to turn on patching. So I can just click save here. And then we'll start being billed for this. And when we get to the point, if we no longer want extended support, we can just come in here, go unsubscribe, and then I can select that I've got license for production assurance or page go again. So we'll just go license only. We'll go license for SA, and then go cancel. So yeah, we can just come in here and then select unsubscribe, and then just save that, and that will take away the issue for SQL. One of the other benefits of Azure I said I would touch on is the ability to kind of manage and look at policies. So we can come in here and we can take a look at policies, and this will be directives that we've got set within our tenant. So this might be something that I've applied to a resource group or a subscription or even the management group. And we can come in here and we can see we've got allowed locations which are being deployed at tenant group level, and then we've got these ones being deployed at the subscription layer. And if I come in here where it says enable Azure monitor for VMs, this will be the configure log analytics extension. This has since been deprecated, so I will be removing this from our thing, but I just wanted to show you guys that we can see compliance and non-compliance in the same portal now. And we can actually use this to look at how these servers match our hardening profiles that we've created for cloud machines. We can also do Windows updates in here as well. So we can drill in here, take a look at what updates are available for a machine. So we can do one-time updates or we can schedule updates. And I'll talk about those in later videos, but I just wanted to bring those to your attention. And thank you for sitting here and listening to me ramble about extended support. And if you have any needs or any help that you might require with this, please reach out to your account manager. We're happy to help. Thank you for taking time out of your day.